What you're seeing right now is how my environment art looked when I first started a couple years ago. This is what it looked after I kept practicing and I kinda got the hang of it, but of course I still had much to learn. Fast forward, and this is what my most recent environment art looks like from this and last year. Big improvement, right? So how did I do it? 2 words: practice and workflow. In this video, I'm gonna show you my approach for environment art, from how to pick your colors to taking it to the finish line. This works whether you're painting from a reference or not. Now, before we get started, there are some crucial things that come in play to achieve great environment design. The biggest one being composition, which you achieve by using focal point and storytelling, and you achieve those by using values, colors, and shapes. I made a short reel explaining this very quickly, so I'll let the Nico from the past talk for a sec. This is the key to good composition and illustrations. I see that a lot of people tend to focus on the rendering, the style, the brushes, or the color, but they forget about the fundamentals of composition. You need to get the viewer's attention. Think of the rule of thirds. Put your focal point where the lines meet or around those areas. Now, let's emphasize that. Clear foreground, middle ground, and background. Focus on creating strong silhouettes that are understandable even without detail. Now, let's build the shapes of the whole piece. I'm gonna surround my focal point with noise to frame it, to create contrast. Think about a silent space in all that noise, or a lot of noise inside all that silent space. You're basically building visual walls and pathways to trap people's attention where you want it. Now, something crucial. While painting, always check your values. The piece needs to evoke the same feeling with and without the color. Use the contrast between light and dark to smartly frame the objects. Think of light and shadow not just logically, but geometrically, as puzzle pieces that form your composition. Treat tones as percentages and play with them to create contrast. Finally, make sure the piece is readable at a distance. Don't just zoom out, physically step back, and if the important shapes are still readable, then you're on the right track. Now, with that in mind, let's go to the theory. Stay with me because this right here is crucial. Here's our little block sketched out. The first thing we're gonna do is paint it with what we will call the local color. This is the color of the object being unaffected by any shadow or light. In this case, the color of this square is gonna be, let's say, light brown. Now, to find out how this color would look under a shadow, we're gonna clip on top a multiply layer. Multiply is universally used as a shadow layer as it blends whatever color underneath darker based on the color you're using on top. Blue color, we get a cooler shadow. Orange, we get a warmer shadow. You get the idea. Now, let's find out how it would look with light hitting it. For this, you have 2 options. Number 1, erase the existing multiply layer, or number 2, use another layer mode on top. For light, I usually use hard light or color dodge. Hard light works well. The problem is that it neutralizes whatever textures you might have painted underneath. So if you want the light affecting the surface but keep the textures, you have to use color dodge. Now the problem with this is that color dodge is a very harsh layer mode. So whatever color you must use must not be very bright in value, or else you're gonna get pure white. Here is another example of what I mean with the texture. Once you have this, you can keep adding more shadow or light layers on top as you please. But now, at least you have a start to your color palette. If you change your mind about the object's local color, you can easily change it by selecting its layer and repainting it. As you can see, the layers on top will still affect the object and show you the result of the blend. Just remember, this is not an exact science. This is a method to get you started, so don't feel obliged to keep the colors you're getting as a result. You can tweak them as you please to generate color contrast. The key here is to play around with it. Keep working on it and boom, we went from flat colors to rendering a rock. Layers used, 2 multiplies and 1 hard light. This right here is what I mean by workflow. This is what I use for every single one of my environment works. And now that you know this, we can move on to the actual breakdown. Step 1. Color blocking. You want to color block all the objects in your sketch with their local color. Take your time. You can group certain objects in one layer if it's easier for you, such as walls or ceilings and the floor, etc. It's really up to you. This is what some of my backgrounds look in the color blocking phase. As you can see, I try to pick local colors that are not too high on saturation or contrast, as we can always tweak that later. This is what the background would look like with everything blocked in. Step 2. Lights and shadows. Following the theory I explained previously, I'm now gonna bathe every object with my shadow. Yes, this means I'm going to add a multiply layer with a shadow color on top of every object that I have. Time consuming? Perhaps, but trust me now, it's worth it. Now, we're determining where our light comes from. In this case, right over here. You will always have a light somewhere, because if not, then you wouldn't be able to look at the piece, I guess. So based on this, you're going to start to paint the areas in your objects that are affected by this primary light source. Here you have to play smart and make your light shadow game visually appealing. keeping in mind that this will heavily affect your focal point, the mood, and the storytelling. Here's where you also start to define textures, such as the flags that I got here. As you might have saw, yes, I mainly use the lasso tool to block in shapes. The problem is the lasso tool leaves pointy edges, so it's important that you also manually erase those to achieve a more realistic approach. Our environment is looking like this. Pretty good, right? Let's keep going. Step 3. Secondary shadows. Now it's time to keep sculpting. Logically, there are places that will be darker, objects that will cast more shadows. So we're gonna add depth to the piece by including those extra shadows. I do this by going to my main multiply layer and adding another multiply layer underneath. But this one, I will only use grayscale. Why? Because those shadows will already be affected by the color layers we have on top. I use this to add shadows on walls that need it or underneath objects close to the floor. These shadows don't need to be perfect, they just need to add that extra dark value that helps build form and composition. Yes, this is where the layers start piling up. Personally, this is what takes me the most amount of time and mental work. Finding a light setting / color palette that you're pleased with is very hard sometimes, especially if you're a perfectionist like me. The good thing is that once you do, now all that's left is to render. But before that, this is not a step, however, I find it's important to note something about graphics. Any stickers, logo, graffiti, etc. that go on top of any of your objects, I highly recommend you design them first on a separate sheet and at a better quality. It's a matter of professionalism and organization, which is really important if you're going to be working at a production eventually. You will be required to hand these separately most likely. Plus, it exercises your graphic design skills and it can be very fun. Copy, paste, and drag those under your layer. Make them fit where you need them to, then tweak the brightness and saturation to finalize it. It's the same deal if you were to paint a material like brick or tiles. Make a layer with it separately, copy paste it, and then fit it in the wall. Step 4. Rendering. From this point forward, everything relies on what direction you want to pursue. Depending on the art style that you're going for, it's how you want to render. This right here is already solid, just rough around the edges. All that's left is to take it to the finish line, for example by adding the textures. Look how a few more details can render this wall into a proper material. Here's where you also get to add your reflections, for example, to further emphasize those materials. Or may light actually pop. For a light glow, I always advise using a hard light layer with a soft airbrush. This is all about the purpose and how much time and effort you're willing to put into, how much you want to tune your piece. Because it can always be pushed, it can always be better.
You can always be thinner, look better.
Now, I understand having this many layers can be a pain in the ass for some people, so here's a quick tip. Click V, then make sure you have this selected, and then you can click up top of any object and it will place you on the corresponding layer that you clicked. Now, since this is all that's left to do, I'm gonna give some general advice for the people who want to get much better at environment design. 1. Do painting studies. A lot. Go on Pinterest and grab any image that you find appealing, then paint it. Try out this workflow or any other workflow that you want until you find your own rhythm. Get comfortable with the process. 2. Learn composition. You can't build an excellent composition right off the bat, but you can spot a bad one and fix it. It's important that you train your eyes for good composition. You can do this by following step 1, but with movies or shows. Get a screen cap and study it, especially the animated movies, because it's people that have already done this. 3. Keep your art references short. I understand that you might scroll on IG or Pinterest endlessly wondering if you'll ever be as good as them, but at some point you gotta chase that success as well. It's important that you gather just a couple artistic references from the same style and then adapt it to your own work. Remember, finishing something, anything, is better than having 1,000 works in progress. 4. Build your brush collection. With environments, I do believe that the brush matters, especially for textures. Search packs for free or paid from your favorite artists and play around with them. You'll eventually find your own set that helps your process be quicker. 5. Move on. Don't get hung up on one piece and its little details. It's what I call don't play with your food. Finish it, then move on to finish something else. With each piece you finish, you level up bit by bit. Lastly, 6. Take critique. Most artists don't like to take critique on their work for some reason. It's part of every pipeline to get your work reviewed and corrected, so get used to it. But a big note on this, there's a difference between critiquing and insulting. Don't let anyone insult your efforts. Now, this is not a tip, but if you have been doing this for a while, you might be wondering why I haven't mentioned thumbnails as part of the process. Thumbnails do help speed up the process of finding a proper light shadow setting and color palette, but when art is for myself, I'd rather experiment while in the rendering process and take my time. It's just a personal preference. If you do decide to do thumbnails though, just remember to keep it very rough and focus on readability and mood. Whew. Now, finally, let's get to step 5. the finishing touches. Voila, we're here, and now is where you get to emphasize. Keyword, emphasize. You gotta push that composition, make that storytelling better, make those shapes clearer. For example, I realized that even though it does look good, once I activated the navigator, which I suggest you do, I can see the issue. My focal point, the plant, is blending way too much with the background. The solution is simple though, hard light layer behind it, making the light stronger and thus differentiating the values. Look at that, much more readable. Now I highly suggest you apply a color balance layer when you think you're done and play around with it. Eventually you'll start noticing right away what does it lack or needs to be toned down. This is a nice way of achieving contrast and exploring. Adjustment layers can really help you get where you want. Once again, the storytelling here is not exactly what I was looking for. Too bright, too happy. Throw in a levels layer, hue layer, vibrance layer, and curves, boom, completely different mood. Once again, feel free to play around. And this is it. This is my process for all of the environment work that I have. Here's another quick breakdown with a more nature-based environment so that you can see that the process stays the same. Again, it's not an exact formula, but a path to get you to the finish line. I found this workflow with a lot of practice and observation, and I suggest that you do the same if you really want to improve. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. I really tried my best for it to be. See ya!